Chair, fellow speakers, guests. Well, I want to thank the speaker for a most interesting and challenging speech about a marriage made in heaven. Although there were shades of Captain Blythe and Eugene the Bounty and Fletcher Christian in there, I think, somewhere. But clever idea to compare the stormy seas of learning how to sail with the absolute placid and wonderful idea of marriage that goes along so swimmingly and so easily. So I thank the speaker for an impressive speech. Not everyone meets their spouse on a sailing lesson. Not everyone almost drowns in love, as the speaker almost did. But it's interesting to find the relationship between the voyage of life in marriage and the voyage of the terror, perhaps, of being in a small boat with someone you perhaps don't know all that well yet, and being not the captain of the boat, but very much the cabin boy. I thought the technique of the speech was to become involved with the speaker in his voyage, and a very strong point in the technique was the involvement of the audience in this adventure and where it was leading. In terms of technique, the speaker used notes, but they were not obtrusive. Very good eye contact with the audience, I thought, right to the back of the hall. Very good voice projection, and good intonation and variation in the voice as we went along. And the voice, the intonation and the anecdotes matched the gestures very well indeed. So I thought that was impressive. Speech was animated from the descriptions of the newfound bits of the boat, from the sharp end to the blunt end with the funny stick that does something but you're not quite sure what. And I thought the engagement of the speaker's life with his future wife perhaps wasn't quite so placid as I thought it was going to be when we started off, but then there you go, that's the mutiny on the Bounty. And his future wife obviously knows how to treat a man and how to keep him under control. You threaten him with drowning, don't you? That's the easy thing to do. The boat only sinks once, but don't worry, you'll be on it. So lots of humour in the speech and lots of engagement in the speaker's feelings about being on the beach, being on the boat. The comments from the captain from time to time, are you a man or a mouse, were a little disturbing. The speaker decided he was a mouse, but he got on with it just the same. Put on this flamboyancy aid, that was most interesting, and left the speaker saying to himself, but where's the steering wheel? So a man most used to the pleasures of doing what men do, which is sitting around watching the rugby on television and not worrying too much about danger, suddenly put in this situation, and I thought the speaker conveyed that terror and that sense of being entirely out of his comfort zone extremely well. He went on to a number of points that I thought were particularly interesting in terms of his relationship with his future wife, who described him at one stage as Captain Pugwash. Those of you who are old enough will remember Captain Pugwash and Tom the Cabin Boy. It wasn't a great relationship, as a matter of fact, and I feel a sense of concern for the speaker if that's the way things worked out. But never mind. He endured the whole event, presumably because he was intent on the future relationship with this good lady, which I'm sure turned out terrifically well once they got off the boat. But he did make it back to shore in time, as far as I know, because he became absorbed with the terrors of the sailing expedition being outweighed by his concern for his underpants, personally autographed by William Shatner, and another amusing little anecdote in that, the Klingon. I mean, it brought home some wonderful word pictures of him on this little voyage that I presume turned out well, since he's here with us today. So what I felt the speech worked really well in terms was the animation of the speaker. He engaged us in the speech. He didn't stand here and talk at us. He engaged us in the speech, and I felt myself totally engaged with his subject. Being a sailor myself for many years, but never having endured the things that he endured, and certainly never having been terribly worried about my underpants while I was in the course of sailing. That is a new one I remember. Lots of humour, lots of anecdotes, all the anecdotes in the theme of the speech and based on the humour, even down to Captain Pugwash. The learning points, pace of the speech was a little frenetic. I think it could have been more enjoyable with perhaps a slower pace. The speaker finished in 6 minutes and 45, could have taken 8 minutes, and it would have been an easier speech to listen to. The speaker has a slight tendency to become staccato in his speaking once he passes a certain point of speed, and I think perhaps if the speaker concentrated on that, it would make an improvement. Probably more pauses, just a few more pauses on the same theme to allow the audience to absorb the joke before he goes on to the next part of the speech. And perhaps a little less movement of the hands between gestures. The gestures were very good, perhaps a little less movement of the hands would have accentuated the gestures. But all in all, a fine speech and very enjoyable. I commend the speaker to his next voyage.